There are three ways to deal with a problem, any problem. You can solve it, you can ignore it, or you can use it in your political campaign. The latter means sometimes making it worse, or actually creating the problem in the first place. That's exactly what the United States of America is doing with its Mexican border. One presidential candidate wanted to build the wall. Another wanted to do anything to boost the number of their supporters by appealing to migrants.
And I want to talk about another top issue, the border.
As a result, we have over 500,000 illegal border crossings in December and January. So I guess we owe thanks to the old geezers at the help of American politics. They brought a truly important issue to the spotlight. So let's talk about it. What should we do about migration? Hi everyone, it's me, the richest migrant there is, Elon Musk. The concept of migration is something almost everyone is dealing with right now. Each country has people who leave for education, work, or run away to lay low after saying something that would land them in hot water at home. Migration creates international labor markets, redistributes population among various regions, and improves international and interracial relations. One caveat, we're talking about legal migration. The government is in charge of it, as it uses immigration policies to solve the problems which the local population cannot or will not solve by itself. Migration is basically a superhero who solves the population crisis. But just like any superhero, it has an arch nemesis, a bearded evil twin, a true supervillain. And its name is illegal immigration. Like a hydra, it has numerous heads and seems to be unkillable. Popular methods include boats, prank cars, trucks, empty compartments in planes, expired tourist visas. Illegal immigration is understandable. The amount of people wishing to leave places with poor living conditions greatly exceeds the amount of people places with good living conditions can take in. Interestingly, the birth rate of the good places is dropping faster than that of the bad places. This means that illegal migration will only exacerbate as time goes by. Followers of humanism say that we need to help people who are forced to leave their homes by hunger, unemployment, armed conflicts, climate disasters, and even their own governments. Europe has tried and is still trying to adhere to humanism. Angela Merkel wanted to go down in history as a person with a big heart. However, she went down in history as a person who left Europe with a large headache. There is a limit to immigration within which a society and an economy can work the influx of new people without serious repercussions. Europe believes that it knows these limits well and has immigration policies in place based on these calculations. We're talking about legal migration, of course. But distances in Europe are small. The Mediterranean is a warm and relatively calm sea, coupled with the fact that the governments and police of European countries take a somewhat relaxed stance on illegal immigration. The latter provides a parallel and much greater stream of new people coming in. French President Emmanuel Macron will share his firsthand experience with us. Just how exactly does illegal immigration affect Europe these days?
Salam alaikum, Elon.
I have no further questions. Imagine you invite a couple to your birthday. You know that the couple has kids. What you don't know is that they have 20 kids. Sure, they give you $300, buy also extra gifts of dirty rugs, a broken toilet graffiti on your walls, and an empty fridge, with the total cleanup cost in the range of a couple grand. Maybe they also scared some guests, peed on others, and drowned someone's phone in juice. Some may say it's all in good fun. Others may call it, like they see it, a mistake. And to be clear, it's a bad idea to invite 20 kid families to parties. Couples with 10 children can and should be invited.
To be fair, you can't really compare illegal immigrants to small dumb kids. It's unethical. Small dumb kids can get offended.
Since the European Union has essentially a common border, the ones paying for lazy Portuguese border guards not doing their job, or corrupted Greek policemen looking the other way are Swedish housewives and Dutch retirees. Illegal immigrants, unable to legally become part of the system, have no choice but to become part of the shadow economy, or even criminal underworld. And some people actually look forward to such a future, hence you have these kinds of immigrants overwhelming the borders. Poland and Hungary are fighting for stricter immigration policies. Basically, they're like Batman and Superman in DC. The two of them are pulling the weight of the whole franchise, failing to compensate for the weaker colleagues. Adding fuel to the fire, Democratic and liberal-leaning politicians of the West advocate for protection of illegal immigrant rights, increasing quotas for legal immigration as well as welfare and other benefits. Governments legalize undocumented immigrants, hoping to use their vote to win the next election. They also try to secure the vote of local business owners who need cheap labor, so cheap that it's beneath local workers, apparently. This is the most expensive marketing campaign in the history of politics. After all, the future generations will be the ones stuck paying for it. Just look at the members of the American Democratic Party, or look at European politicians. Yeah, Europe these days is kind of like a tropical evening. It's getting dark rather fast.
I'm sure I'll be France's last white president.
Why are you so happy about it?
This is my last chance to be remembered for something.
We're not being racist here. We're talking about major cultural shifts happening in migrant-receiving countries. Today, it's impossible to foresee what it will lead to years from now. One thing is certain, illegals are using the local infrastructure, which is supported by the taxes of legal residents. Illegal migrants have a hard time integrating into the local community. Thus, they form their own communities, ghettos, if you will, trying not to adapt themselves, but to make the recipient culture resemble that of their home. Let's not forget that it's these traditional values and patterns that led to the decision to abandon their home countries. And thus, we have the latest, hottest European cocktail drink. Some believe that illegal immigration is like Trump in Iowa. Can't beat him. Actually, it's not the case. Sure, there will always be people who enter countries on a tourist visa and stay there, working illegally. But some countries manage to minimize the number of such illegals. For example, the United Arab Emirates. Currently, around 90% of the country's residents are migrants who work in construction, either in Dubai or Abu Dhabi. At the same time, there is virtually no illegal immigration, although the country is right next to regions from where illegals typically come: India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and other countries of Central and East Asia. The reason for this is the strict immigration policy adopted by the sheiks as well as the kafala system. No, it's not the current most popular European name. It's a special system used to regulate immigration and labor relations in some Arab nations. Some call it basically contemporary slavery. An in-country sponsor, usually the migrant's employer, who is responsible for their legal status. The sponsor pays for the visa and the work permit, and the migrant pays back with their labor. Until the debt is paid, the employer can do whatever they want. Basically, withhold or dock payment, prohibit the worker changing employment, and worsen their living conditions. This is how it works in UAE, Saudi Arabia, and other Arab countries. All in all, immigrants are considered second-class people in the Persian Gulf states, kind of like archivists working for large corporations or cameramen working for comedy shows. Just kidding. Here we go. I'm about to get swarmed by comments saying that the US abolished slavery and dealt with its fallout for decades. There's no way the country will behave like those Arabs. Kafala, as an immigration policy, is impossible to adopt in the West. A policy that harshly mistreats immigrants is possible only in a world without free and fair elections. Sure. Australia. Its closest neighbors are the Philippines and Indonesia. I wonder who's going where to earn some extra money. Yep, that's what guys from the Philippines and Indonesia have been doing, up until 2001. They sailed in their tiny boats, bringing big problems. But then came the so-called Tampa affair, right before Australian elections. Australia refused permission for the Norwegian freighter carrying 433 rescued refugees, although it had obligations under international law at the United Nations. This incident got them, Australians, thinking, if the UN paper pushers worry so much about the refugees, why isn't there a single family from Pakistan or Somali living in UN headquarters? So they said, enough is enough. We'll be the ones deciding who and how may enter our country. Then the government introduced the Pacific Solution. The program entailed that illegal immigrants were to be taken to temporary detention centers in Papua New Guinea, where their refugee status was considered. The would-be refugees were then required to prove their status or risk being deported back to their home countries. In 2008, the Labour Party decided that these detention centers were way too expensive. They shut them down and, surprise, surprise, the country immediately received an influx of illegal immigrants. In a year, the Pacific solution was reintroduced and with a greater budget. Australians are buying our boats from Indonesians, paying for tips on human trafficking and patrolling the shores of Indonesia and the Philippines. Basically, they've taken the war against illegal immigration to the source countries, and they seem to be winning it. Still think illegal immigration can't be beat? Or maybe you'll say you need to be surrounded by water to have a chance. Bah! How about the Russian Federation, the largest international border in the world? Parts of the border are near the Caucasus region and Central Asia. In other words, some of its neighbors have lower quality of life than Russia. The country is fourth in the world when it comes to the number of immigrants. Citizens of CIS countries, don't confuse it with CIS genders, need no visas, only their passports to enter.
This is my Russian passport. And this is my Russian passport as well. Why?
Only their passports to enter. They all speak Russian. Cultural adaptation is relatively simple, and requirements for residency permits and citizenship are rather lax. They realized that having an immense border, aforementioned neighbors, and rampant corruption, you can't really fight immigration. What you can do is make legal migration as easy as possible. Thus, Russia recoups its dwindling population numbers due to low birth rate, has a large pool of cheap labor, and uses its schools and other social institutions to integrate newcomers into its society. The system is not without kinks, but it works. So far, so good, at least. Then there's the program for integrating immigrants in France via schools, spearheaded by Nicolas Sarkozy. It seems to be working well too. On the other hand, compare the populations exporting immigrants to Russia and France, respectively, the number of people living in Central Asia and those living in Africa.
Africans make a lot of babies because they have nothing better to do. Maybe we should get them some video games.
There are other examples of waging an effective war on illegal immigration. For example, if you don't like pineapples on your pizza, you can just stop eating pizza altogether, just like Japan and South Korea. These countries basically have neither legal nor illegal immigration, stringent entry quotas, and all sorts of limitations for non-citizens, harsh immigration control, having an island and peninsula geography, respectively. All these are both their strengths and their weaknesses. Both of these countries have naturally declining populations, and soon they will have no choice but to open their doors to legal immigration. Let's see what they do about its ugly cousin then. And then there is Israel. It also has virtually no illegal immigration, despite being surrounded by potential sources for migrants. Sources that would like the country gone, by the way. There's being hard as steel, hard as diamonds, but the hardest known material is bricks, produced by butts, having to deal with guarding the Israel border. Reinforced walls, searches, security services, mameds. Sure, they do have a small number of illegal immigrants, but would you really want to be in their shoes? China, population of almost 1.5 billion, and yet only 1 million immigrants live there. There's significant domestic migration, with residents of poorer provinces moving to wealthier places, and village folk moving to cities. So there's one more way to fight illegals: make them compete with local migrants. Have you noticed the work ethic Asians have? That's why Africans and Pakistani don't line up for a chance to work themselves to the bone at Chinese factories. Mr. Xi, is China concerned about illegal immigration?
No, China is not afraid of anything.
Is that all you have to say?
Knowing ears have heard enough.
The larger the population, the easier it is for a country to assimilate immigrants. If the UK had a similar ratio of locals and newcomers, all immigrants would fit in just 4 Wembley stadiums, 330,000 people. Instead, the streets of London look like this. The United States of America also has a large population, so they can easily deal with 2-3 million immigrants per year. Its land border is shorter than that of Russia, and its maritime border is significant. Basically, it can easily adopt an approach similar to Israel or Australia. Mr. President, I've already met with House leaders on Capitol Hill, but I'd like to ask you personally, why is illegal immigration such a huge problem? Be honest.
You've known me for a while, haven't you?
Yes.
So you won't be voting for me anyway. But the immigrants don't know me, so they'll vote for me.
At the end of the day, we have a migration crisis, southern states protests that has to clean up all that mess, and a movie about a civil war in the United States is about to be released. The cause of it all is, instead of winning over existing voters, the current government is just importing new ones. First, don't forget that many states and smaller municipalities allow undocumented immigrants to vote in local elections.
I will support this horrible open borders betrayal of America.
Second, immigrants mean welfare and various social benefits, and American Democrats love voting for these sorts of things. Today, Biden and his inner circle are very proud of the immigration deal they've reached in the U.S. Congress. As part of the deal, the border may be shut down if the amount of illegal immigrants reaches a certain number. Just think about it. Illegal immigrants are people who broke the law. You wouldn't be proud of a law which would ban murder, but only after 4,000 deaths per day. Mr. President, do you believe that it's a good idea to boost your electoral numbers by using immigrants?
We live in a democratic society where everyone is free to vote against Donald Trump, that is.
But the bottom line is, a lot of countries found various ways of dealing with illegal immigration. And yet, no one found a way to deal with Democrats. Perhaps we need to address the problem on a different scale and try to raise the quality of life in less well-off countries. It will reduce birth rate and create new markets for exporting goods from developed nations. But that would take billions of dollars and decades of hard work. It's much simpler to have this controllable problem around your southern border, use it to feed your bureaucratic machine, and use it as a tool in the run-up to each election. That means it's time for my favorite part of the show. This is a comedy show, so let's use our imagination. First, we need to buy out unused land and settle immigrants there. The world is full of such land plots. Canada, Russia, car dealerships selling gas-powered SUVs after the Cybertruck started deliveries. Or better yet, let's settle immigrants on the land and even in the buildings belonging to those who signed the laws to legalize the undocumented. You sign it, you feed them. We're killing two birds with one stone. The illegals are taken care of, and U.S. Democratic senators will spend more time at work than at home.
Never thought I'd say this of my own volition, but could we perhaps adopt this American approach here in Europe?
Second, everyone knows that for the foreseeable 100 years or so, the only way for developed countries not to die out is to offset low birth rates with immigration. The countries who attract the best ones will have the upper hand. So I suggest we introduce a draft system for immigrants, kind of like in pro sports. If someone has no criminal history, no severe illnesses, is able-bodied, doesn't use drugs, and better yet, has a viable profession, countries offer their terms, and the potential immigrant chooses the best option.
We offer $1 million to sub-70 nm chip engineers.
This will be the true victory for people of color, not like the latest Little Mermaid adaptation. Let's be real, it was blatant pandering. Finally, here's my final suggestion. Let's stop making Hollywood blockbusters. These movies boast gorgeous houses, cars, and women, so sure, policemen are honest and children are very well behaved. Dreams are easily achieved and everyone can become a millionaire. Let's show another America instead, with poor infrastructure and very expensive. Oh wait, there's a word for these movies. Documentaries. Americans, I implore you, let's make Hollywood honest again. Sure, we'll lose a few $1 billion, but we'll solve illegal immigration to America once and for all.
American presidents should always be portrayed by the real one.
Thanks, Mr. President. This is the worst idea for our movie industry. You're a true patriot.
God bless America. How do you say it in Spanish?
Of course, illegal immigration is only a part of the larger demographic problem. I'd like to talk about the composition of this immigration as well as domestic migration, and about the benefits of well-managed migration for humanity. But this is the internet. At any moment, we're risking losing our viewers to boobs and cats. Therefore, I want people to have better memories about the first season of my show than about the first term of the Biden presidency. yes, I'm just sitting on a chair and waving. I'm sure that will be enough.